So let's get started. Welcome to this Learning Fair session. Will AI take my job? Prospects for PR and marketing. So before we get started, just a few notes. As we go along, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will deal with all the questions at the end of the session and also during the session. We have somebody manning the chat as such to provide some information as we go along. So let me introduce, I will be joined today by my co-presenter, Christy Pilo. She is a course lecturer in the Public Relations and Marketing program. She is also one of an alumni of the program. She has an MBA, she is PMP certified as well for project management. So we really appreciate having Christy here today. She works in global marketing in the field. So she does know what she's talking about, and they use AI a lot. So a lot of insights coming from there. I'm Dr. Nicolette Papastefanou. I'm a faculty lecturer and the academic program coordinator of the PR and marketing programs, as well as the graduate program director of the Masters in Multilingual Communication. That will be launching in the fall, and we will talk a little bit more about these programs towards the end. But first, so when we started putting together this presentation, there's always a chance that you don't really know where to start. So we thought we would start with AI for inspiration. And so we asked ChatGPT, will AI take my job in PR and marketing? And this is what it came up with. So the main thing here is that obviously it can be used for many things to make repetitive tasks a lot easier, but it is also not good at specific things. And this is where you come in. And we'll be talking more about these things. But very important to remember is that you can use AI, and this is what we teach our students as well. We use AI as our assistants. We don't use them as our replacements. We use them to enhance our strategy, content, and outreach. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So how do we use AI in PR and marketing? How can it make our jobs better? We're going to look very briefly at a career landscape. We're going to look at some AI tools, and then very, very briefly at our programs as well. So before we start, I coordinate both programs, the public relations and the marketing programs. And while these fields are very, very related, more and more integrated in practice, there are subtle differences and with subtle differences in focus as such. So this mostly relates to the day-to-day activities, audiences, goals, and metrics. And I wanted to start with this because this also helps you see how AI can work in these two different fields together and how the different functions are actually really well integrated. So PR focuses on building relationships in general between the company and the public. The focus is very much on earned media, so doing things like events, reputation boosting, corporate social responsibility, and so on to build relationships and to get media coverage that is not paid for, such as advertising, which is quite a keen focus of marketing. And one of the things that is becoming increasingly important and has been for some time is to control narratives and to tell stories. So most communication activities now focus a lot on storytelling across various media platforms. Marketing makes a company is sort of more focused. So building on what PR does, marketing focuses on a brand and specific products and services. It includes advertising and PR, and as such, it focuses on paid media. So market demand, product price, place and promotion. The focus is also on driving sales through promotions and so on. So while these have never been separate fields, they are becoming increasingly integrated now. So what are some trends and skills in PR? And the reason I'm having a look at this is because, again, you'll be able to see how AI fits into each of these skill sets and different tasks or functions of public relations. So PR focuses on strategic comms and messaging, audience psychology that is similar to consumer behavior. So behavioral theories, why do people behave the way they do? How do you tailor messages aligned with that? And how do you align your strategy with the organizational and bigger picture strategy? We focus on analytics and measurement. This is a huge area for using AI, and more on that later. Media relations and storytelling has always been an integral part of public relations. We just now have many new ways to do this in a much faster way. So we focus here on engaging content and releasing this engaging content on the right channels as well. Obviously, a huge focus on digital and social media now to amplify message reach, and building relationships is always the bottom line for most public relations, or actually all public relations activities. So in terms of marketing, we're focusing more and more on digital first experiences by optimizing the technologies available to us, generating leads, obviously marketing strategy as well with the 4 Ps, which are now 7 Ps, or there might be more, I can't remember. Every time I look, there's more Ps. We obviously look at influencer marketing, social media, SEO, which is becoming more advanced as we move on. Consumer behavior is a very big part of marketing, understanding how people behave, why they're engaging in certain content and not others. And this has to do with branding as well. Using augmented and virtual reality, more on that soon, and using various tools at our disposal, as well as marketing automation, which we have all been subject to in many ways during one day. So more on that just now. So major areas affected by AI adoption. I'm going to look at this very quickly, just relating to the things that I've already mentioned. We use AI a lot in research and building lists, so repetitive tasks, monitoring and measuring of the media, audience sentiment, that kind of thing. For writing, I will speak more on this later. We use it as first draft. It's definitely not the last draft. For reporting various things and planning pitches, as well as strategy and planning, due to the key insights that are provided through various AI technologies. In marketing, we have similar basic content creation, writing copy. It is used to inspire creative thinking, but more on that later as well. The most common use is for marketing data and to generate images at times. So this is all encompassed in this diagram over here. Analytics I've mentioned, we're going to go into all of these in more detail in the next couple of slides. So just in terms of making our brands visible, it is important to embrace AI, and we especially use it in audience analysis. So we can get vast quantities of data that's very rich through AI, and it's much easier to do this and much faster than it was in the past. So the key here is knowing how to use that data and how to interpret it and translate it into campaigns and strategies. So I've already mentioned quite a few of these things. Ultimately, it makes it easier for us to do our research and analysis. It reduces costs and resources because we can base everything becomes data-driven. It's not based on assumption. And while it was never really based on assumption, it is now really data-driven. We have the data that we need to tailor messages and to reach people where they want to be reached, so on the channels that they use. Automated content creation and media monitoring and analysis. And I've already mentioned measurement. So what it does well is, in terms of strategy, it can help us in every step of the strategy. This goes for both PR and marketing. We can plan whole workflows, from defining objectives to profiling audiences, to picking the best channels, to creating content, like I said, as a first draft, and so on. The other thing, in terms of content strategy and generation, you can use this for inspiration. You can generate first drafts of press releases of certain key messages for various social platforms in the right format, and so on. So here, what we have to do is bring in human insight to personalize this to our markets with subtle nuances and cultural references. All right, for data analysis, I've already spoken about that. We can use it to optimize ads. It has a look at what channels are working well and creating the best return on investment. And very importantly, it is used a lot for targeting audiences specifically and personalizing messages for them. So in other words, you get the right message to the right person at the right time. So that's what AI does well, if you know how to use it properly and apply it to what you're doing. What it does not do well, and this is where people become the key thing and why it will not replace you as long as you're optimizing your work through tools, is AI cannot think strategically at this point. So it cannot craft a narrative. It can't come up with something to boost reputation through brand building and that kind of thing. That still requires a bit of a human touch, even though you can use the basis of what you've generated to save time. It is not that good yet at creativity and nuance, and obviously, really tailoring something, personalizing it, and localizing content to suit specific audiences and specific regions. And it is obviously not very good at relationship building, which is the basis of all communication related activities. So to come back to our question, will AI take my job? This was a different search on ChatGPT on a different day. And suffice to say, according to AI itself, and we trust AI, you are actually more valuable than ever now in this particular environment, because you are a storyteller and a brand builder and a strategist. So AI will help you with your job, but it will certainly not replace you yet. So we're going to get into the more fun stuff now. I say yet because things change very quickly. So just in terms of things that we can use for various technologies that make our jobs a lot easier. So first of all, virtual and augmented reality. This is providing more and more immersive experiences and really creating more of an experience than just seeing something written. And over the last couple of years, experience-based marketing and that kind of thing has become a lot more prominent. So rather than just telling people something, you immerse them in it and let them experience it for themselves and make their own judgments. This has become a very big thing in media relations right now in terms of working with journalists and influencers. Other places where virtual and augmented reality have played a very big role, and it's becoming more popular, is on popular games like Roblox and Minecraft. And I know specifically Minecraft is used, and even Roblox as well. Cirque du Soleil has got a Roblox world where you can experience some of their shows while you're playing. Minecraft also has real worlds based on actual places, and it exposes whoever's playing, I guess is the word, gaming. They can go into these worlds and actually, it has started boosting tourism in some places as well. So that's an interesting application. We also have chatbots and virtual assistants. This is really streamlining communication with customers. It's making things a lot faster, and it's also freeing up resources. Blockchain technology is completely transparent. It's a lot of safe. It's a good way to handle data, and it is optimizing transactions. And then, of course, big data and analytics, which we hear about all the time. This gives us very solid and vast amounts of data on our audiences and their behaviors and preferences in terms of channels and so on. So that is me handing over to Christy now, and she's going to talk you through the various tools. Thanks, Christy.
Of course. Thanks, Nicolette. So good afternoon, everyone. So as Nicolette mentioned, I work in the clean tech industry as well as, of course, lecturer. And one of the things that I oversee is our AI strategy and innovation committee. So given my departments are PR, marketing, I work a lot with cybersecurity as well. We're looking at how can we take AI and leverage it into the business side. And a lot of the areas we're seeing a lot of value right now is really marketing and PR. I think we're kind of one of the first to really adopt it. And if you look at this overview, you'll see a lot of different areas that AI is incorporating right now in PR. So ideas, inspiration. So back in the day, we do big brainstorming sessions where we'd ask people to bring in ads or pieces or articles or different inspiration of, let's say, competitors and their campaigns. Now you put in your idea for a brainstorm within, let's say, 2 minutes, you have a wide array of ideas. So it's a really good starting point, very similar to what Nicolette did when we started this idea of the presentation. In terms of media lists and press release drafts, I mean, again, it all comes to the quality of the prompt. And the way I look at AI and I look at tools like ChatGPT is, for me, it's an intern. So it's an intern that if you give them the right structure and give them the right guidance, they're able to give you generally a really high quality piece of content to start off with that can then be refined and add that strategic element to it. Then we go to video. So for a lot of marketing departments, when it comes to sales support collateral, so we go to that idea of marketing drive sales. Well, how do we do that? We give pieces of collateral, training documents. We give videos about testimonials. One of the great things for companies that are international is we need tools to help us translate in different languages. So I'll show you a few tools today that will help you kind of realize the future. Because if we take a first piece of content in English, and then we work in Quebec, so with Law Vincent, you have to have a French version. But then you're working in Europe, and you need a version in German and Swedish and all types of different languages. Well, the AI tools that exist on the market are actually fantastic and something that we use quite a bit. And when we think of an efficiency standpoint, I can say from my own department, we've saved about 1.5 individuals in terms of external work we'd have to do. And what we do is we bring more efficiency to the department. So generic things, replying to emails, social media engagement, generate reports. There's just really a wide variety, but we'll focus more on the application-based tools. So if we go to the next slide, we'll start off with a nice example of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT originally, I think we all started just kind of playing around with it, saying, okay, well, can it draft some content? Can it refine some content? And then what's happened the last 6 months is there's been a really big upgrade in terms of, let's say, the learning models of ChatGPT. So I mentioned brainstorming being very valuable for the marketing departments, content drafting, as Nicolette said, having a good first draft to work off of, translation. So I'll show you a tool called DeepL later on in the presentation, but ChatGPT actually does a fantastic job of translating content, saying, I want to have a polished executive level communication in German. It'll do it within 2 to 3 minutes and generally give you different communication ideas you can incorporate as well. Executive summary tools. So one thing that I find very valuable is we do a lot of research. I work with engineers, and we can often take 5, 6 different reports, upload them into ChatGPT. Again, this is a paid version, and say, give me an executive summary of 2 pages. So all this reading that we still need to do, we can get a very comprehensive summary that makes it more efficient sometimes to pull out those key ideas. Data visualization. So in the world of marketing, it's great to have good content, but if the visual is not strong, especially on a data side, it doesn't make it as impactful as it can be. So we have tools like Excel that, we have great graphs, but not everybody's an expert in Excel. ChatGPT also is a tool. Copilot also is a tool that can come in and bring more value. And like we said in the statistics research, you need to find contacts. You want to develop some journalist relationships. You want to find some articles they've done. You can really expedite that in terms of a preparation side. So moving on, we'll go to the next slide. Here's an example of the research side. So you see the prompt. Like I said, I always imagine the prompt is an intern that I need to give a sufficient amount of information to get the type of results I'm searching for. So the more specific, the better. But then if you're very global, you're going to get a lot of different arrays of data. So in this one, the prompt was draft 5 statistics about AI in marketing and PR. And a lot of the time, ChatGPT will take your historical searches. So for me, I generally look at let's say things like Salesforce or like HBR as different topics, and they'll pull data from that. So in this case, the first piece of statistic was 61% of marketing say AI is the most important aspect of their data strategy. And this is coming from Salesforce, a really well-known CRM in the marketing world. So then from there, I said, okay, that's a good statistic, but I would like to see a visual. So you say, make a visual of this statistic, and it gives you a first draft. It's an okay version. I would have, for the purpose of today's presentation, I'd like to be more aligned with the colors of red because that's part of McGill's brand guidelines. So I made a small prompt saying, make a nicer visual focused on the 61% statistic and use red and make it more tech savvy. And there you go. Now I have that transition from pieces of data into something that's a little bit more visual on the data side. So now going on to the next slide. This is one feature that I think has elaborated quite a bit from ChatGPT. So about 6 months ago, if you asked ChatGPT to make you a visual, an image, say make an image of, XYZ, the picture was really not the best quality. In the last 6 months, they have now integrated all types of, it is more of a graphical design element. But this is an example of an image I took. So as I was on vacation, I love unicorns, right? I think it's it's a cool picture. And I said, create a Pixar style image of the attached. And this took total 2 minutes. So I got that first draft. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh, I don't know if that really looks like me. So I made a few adjustments and a refinement prompt. And I said, make the jacket a pattern, make the hair more blonde, a little bit slimmer in the face. We all want to look good in pictures, and add in some white shoes. And the next prompt I got was the one on the right-hand side, which, if you look at it between the real picture and let's say the Pixar style image from ChatGPT, what do you think? Show of hands. Does it look realistic? Is it a cool image? What do you think, right? It's fun. And these are things that ChatGPT has done very nicely. Oh, I like the thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. But essentially, you can now ask, there's not just Pixar images, there's comic style images. If you want to look like someone from Star Wars, you can do that. There's a lot of creativity now in terms of the visual side, which if you asked me like I said, 6 months ago, I never would have thought ChatGPT would be at this level. But just to say how much evolution is coming, and it's coming so quickly. Now is the time to be in the world of PR and marketing, because there's such a shift. And as Nicolette mentioned, you need to be, right now is the time to be educated on it. We need to know what's happening. If you don't know how to use these tools and you don't know how to implement them into your digital strategy, you're not leveraging this. And I think right now, we need the human for these higher level strategic initiatives, but we need to leverage the tools for efficiency. If you can kind of part of your time and spend it on things that bring more value, well, that's essentially what AI is doing for us. So let's go on to the next one, if you don't mind. So ChatGPT content drafting in multiple languages. As I said, when you have a marketing department and you have things like LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts, and you have multiple different channels, and you're doing things like internal communications, you're constantly generating content. Back in the day, a press release could take 10 hours to create. Now when you have a first draft, I mean, you're probably 50% of the way there. You're doing this in minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And now with ChatGPT, there's a deep research portion that you can ask for a more in-depth analysis, and you wait maybe, let's say, anywhere between 10 minutes to a few hours, but it'll give you a much more thorough research in ChatGPT. So that's a new tool that also came out a few months ago. But you see this example here. I said, write a LinkedIn post of 200 words about AI and marketing in English and French. Voila. And because of the trends that I have from my history, I like to have communications that generally have a strong header, that have bullet points. So ChatGPT is learning the way that I like to communicate with it. And again, something that brings value is, you refine it, and it's never your final draft, but it's a starting point. So moving on to the next one. Data analysis and visualization. So I always had this, I guess, when I grew up and I did a marketing degree, I always had this idea that, when we choose where we go in university, a lot of the time we say, you know what, I'm a creative, I'm going to go in the world of marketing, or I love finance, I'm going to go in finance and accounting. The reality of the world now is the biggest skill sets are really strategic planning. And strategic planning is often about data-driven decisions. So if we're a marketing individual, it's great to do nice content and beautiful pieces of collateral. But if you cannot show the data and the value you're bringing and the impact, it's very hard to move up in an organization. So being data centric, which used to be a big skill, understanding Excel, understanding all these formulas, with these AI tools, it makes the job much easier. And if I go into management meetings, so I'm part of an executive management team, present to boards, they want to know the data. Okay, you have a bunch of marketing campaigns out. What was the impact of it? And as much as we look at that picture on the left-hand side, it says using this is an Excel sheet. There's a bunch of information about visits, social media mentions, registration, revenue. Nobody really wants to stare at that type of visual. Excel sheets, let's be honest, looking at them, it's boring. So by taking that Excel sheet, and again, ChatGPT, you can upload an Excel sheet and say, based on this, create a one-page infographic of the data, or create a number of different graphs that I can include in a PowerPoint presentation. So you see that data piece on the left, I asked for a one-pager, and it took all these different data sets and made a nice visual. So these are the tools that we can leverage. You have that in ChatGPT, you have that in Copilot. I think also with McGill, you have access to Copilot as a student. There's a lot of value from it, but you have to play around with the tools. A lot of the time, if we don't know what exists, we're not going to go and try it. And that's what I think part of this session is too, is that when we're doing assignments in the programs that Nicolette was mentioning, we're trying to make things that are practical and hands-on, that you can do it in an assignment and then you can go and apply it in the real world. So moving on to the next slide. I talked to you about the aspect of being an international company. So back in the day, I would work with my team. We'd work on an English piece of collateral. Let's say it's a training video. A training video is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We're in a clean tech industry in the transport sector. Then I would take that English video and I would send it to an external consultant and say, look, I need a French version. We need to translate the script. We need to put closed captions on it, then upload it. Let's say on average, this 10-minute video would cost me about $1,000, right? From a budget side. Since using this HeyGen tool and preparing for anybody in Quebec, when you deal with Office de la langue française, you have to have by law every piece of collateral in French, including videos. One of the things that we did is we used this tool and we basically had all of our videos translated with a caption on the bottom. But what's also very interesting is that you can now upload the video within 10 minutes through a tool like HeyGen. It will go and change it with a lip sync that is really spot on in a different language. So this was I think a video that went pretty viral a few years ago. It was from Messi. So everyone knows Messi, soccer let's say leader in the world. I mean, he has videos all over the place and he has an audience that's international. So if he's speaking a first language that is not English or French or German and you're a fan, well, you can understand it. Yeah, I like that, Gabriel. He's the GOAT. So how do we leverage that? So this tool, I'll give you an example. The tool, for example, most companies will cover the cost of these, but this tool specifically for Corpsite is about $70 a month. So for $70 a month, we uploaded 15 different videos that were done in the span of, let's say, 4 or 5 days, because it does take some time to roll out each video. But from a cost saving standpoint, we saved thousands of dollars, and we actually had something that was much more advanced than if we had outsourced it. So that's an example of a tool that exists. And I think in reality, there's some statistic that's saying like on average, there's over 100 tools a day that is being launched in the market from AI. And I'll give you another one, a tool I was using called Murph AI that would do a French translation using the voice. That tool specifically, it was off the market and basically discontinued 3 months after we were using it. So not every AI tool is going to be, staying on the market and having roadmaps to continue developing. So this one is an example of what does really well. And I just see a comment, there is an aspect of integrity. So sometimes you might have a voiceover with captions and you might not use the lip syncing function depending on the industry. So in my particular case, where we had videos of customers that were speaking in English, we had a French voiceover with captions and we didn't use the lip syncing feature because we were not comfortable from an ethical standpoint to use that. And then we also had to have the customer who did the testimony in English approve it and have written consent to use the video. So there is an aspect of ethical AI that a lot of companies need to touch. And these are things that we discuss in some of the courses like AI policy. A lot of organizations right now are developing their AI policy. So we are really in a position right now of being proactive on this. So let's go on, Nicolette, to the next one. So Midjourney. So I don't know if anyone's heard of this tool. It's a pretty cool tool. And what's nice is that, again, ChatGPT is really trying to leverage a lot of these plugins. So when you use to kind of, let's say, maximize Midjourney, you ask ChatGPT to create a prompt that you can use in Midjourney. So you're leveraging 2 different AI tools to get to the end result. So in this case, I said create a prompt for Midjourney to create a visual for a presentation for a PR marketing campaign about will AI steal my job? And basically what it did, you can see it's much longer. It says a futuristic office scene blending human professionals and humanoid AI robots working side by side. Dramatic lighting, digital interface overlays. So there's also a bias from ChatGPT. So when I say I want an image like this, I mean AI said, okay, well, what she wants is a visual of a human and a robot. Not exactly what I meant, but that's what came out. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see how it actually works Midjourney. So you'll see this is the platform on the left-hand side. So essentially what you do is you put in the prompt and you paste the prompt. And there's all these different settings. And what it does is that it will then generate an array of different visuals. And what's really cool about this is these are brand new visuals being created. So from a copyright standpoint, there is no issue because you are generating them from scratch. So you own these images. When you work in the world of marketing and PR and you have websites, we have to, a lot of the time we spend a big budgets on stock photography, using stock images, using images that can be copyrighted. This is another way that we have a little bit more ability to control a budget standpoint. Because yeah, and then at the end of the day, like I said, if we go marketing drive sales, we also need to have a sufficient marketing budget to cover the objectives we're trying to do. So those are like the first array of images that came out. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see a zoomed in image, which I thought was a pretty cool image. And then the next aspect, similar to ChatGPT, where we use prompting to refine. Think of my Pixar image, or think of content we're doing, like a press release. We want to help refine some more of the content before we go into really editing it ourselves. This does the same thing. So here it'll say, well, do you want to change the colors? Do you want to rerun the image? Now you start prompting on an AI tool that is more sufficient, or let's say more mature compared to ChatGPT on an image standpoint. So then we'll just continue to leverage this tool in terms of creating something more visual. And then let's say I like this image, but I say, look, there's another image I really like that I found online. Let me upload this and say, make something similar to this. Midjourney also has the capability to do that. So it does bring in a lot of value in that sense. So we'll continue on. Like I said, it's a lot of play in this. When I go back to ChatGPT, you'll see on the left-hand side, there are these, let's say there's these more defined GPTs that have been launched. And these have been launched at least, I think, 6 months ago. But one that I personally really like, again, if you work in a marketing department, you probably spend a lot of time working on presentations. PowerPoint, right? Back in the day, we had to sit there doing PowerPoints, making it creative ourselves. Now there's tools that will help us, especially generating content even for the presentation. So research and design combined. It's not perfect. You still need the human to come in and put the right content in, analyze the flow, but it is a good starting point from visual. So you'll see here, I use the Canva plugin with ChatGPT, and I said, create a presentation in PowerPoint format in Canva about AI and marketing and public relations. Ensure the visual graphics are modern and include the color red. So that was my first prompt. And then what it will ask you is, Canva wants to talk to ChatGPT via plugin. Any of these plugins, there will always be a prompt asking you to allow it, to approve it, right? To consent to that. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see some examples. So generally what ChatGPT will do, it will usually pull out 2 examples. If you want to use something that's a little bit more, let's say, defined, you can be more specific in terms of the type of visual you're looking for. But like I said, this doesn't replace graphic design in any way. It just gives you ideas of how to be more creative. So there's an aspect of that brainstorming that comes in. Is okay, well, you know what? I'm a graphic designer. I still work very closely with a number of graphic designers, and I use AI more to kind of give me inspiration to share with the graphic designer. So as I mentioned, things like graphic design, I've heard comments of individuals saying, well, you know, my job's going to be obsolete. That is absolutely not true, in my opinion, because it's more that inspirational side. Here's an idea. I saw this. We leveraged some AI tools. Can you create something like this? Because at the end of the day, if you're doing, again, advertising campaigns in magazines or labels for, let's say, print artwork, or any type of thing that's being printed or going into media, you still want the finesse of this. These are just tools that help make you a little bit more efficient in terms of the idea generation side. So you can see the 2 options that came out. I asked it to come in red. In this case, it didn't bring it into red. I had to refine it twice to get a red version. But it gave some statistics as well. So 40% of growth in AI adoption is marketing. And then you'll have on the top, like 61% of marketers using AI tools. 45% of businesses are prioritizing AI investments as part of their strategies. So it's also pulling in pieces of data, given it's looking at my preference. So when I use ChatGPT, I always ask for credible sources to help me when I'm doing research of data. So it's pulling in that data source into the Canva designs. So next one. DBEL, so translation. So when you work in marketing or PR, yes, it's about communication. It's how do we get this message we're trying to sell from the person A and make sure that it resonates, the message we're actually trying to communicate, to person B. And a lot of it that happens is related to translating. So I do a lot of business in Europe, in Latin America, Australia, and from let's say a cultural standpoint, but a language standpoint, we don't use the same words, right? We need to, and back in the day, translations, I mean, there's usually, you have to have the content sent out to a translator. You have to wait a certain amount of time. Like sometimes it can be a 2-week lead time to get content. Nowadays, with things like DeepL, it does give you a fast translation version very quickly. It's not always perfect, and I do believe you still need to have someone who has that language review it, but it's a very good first draft. So things that DeepL use, I mean, DeepL is a tool I've been using for probably like 4 or 5 years at this point. It does have an AI component built in. So AI powered writing assistance where it will enhance the grammar tone. Things like a lot of us might use the tool Grammarly in email communication where it cleans it up. It's a little bit more powerful than a Grammarly tool because it does give you, let's say, another aspect, especially when it comes to structural writing. In different languages as well, right? So for example, like I'll say ChatGPT, if you do a translation in French, one thing you'll notice is that they will capitalize a lot of things that normally in English we capitalize, but in French we don't capitalize. So that's an issue. ChatGPT does not do well. Same thing with numbers. If you do let's say a calculation in ChatGPT, you really do need to double check things related to numbers because ChatGPT is often will have a few, let's say a few mistakes. So I always say you have to be careful. And I see Andrea's comment about German, there's a lot more capitalization. You do have to be mindful. But again, DeepL is a tool that helps you get to that next version very quickly, but you still need a human to come into it. So other things, like I said, customer support, DeepL has, I think it's 33 languages, very good for education and research and having content. Like I said, let's say you're doing research and there's a wonderful paper that's written in French or written in German, but you're a native English speaker and you're doing your paper in English. Well, you want to have this data, so use it to translate and then reference it. That's a really good use of the tool as well. And I work a lot with Europe, so I get a lot of testing data reports, but they are in German. And I want to make sure my German is not at the level I wish it would be, but it's a tool that we can use. Okay, so next slide, just to show you a little bit more how to use the tool. And there is a free tool that you can use as well. So translation. So I took some content from ChatGPT, the power of AI in modern marketing, and I asked it to translate into into German. And again, within a few seconds, you get a first draft that's really nice. And now if we go to the next slide, we'll see the aspects of DeepL Write. So this is an AI-powered edit tool. And what it does is once you put it in, you're able to change the tone and the style. So in this case, I said, well, I want something that's more business oriented and I want the tone to be confident, right? Sometimes you're going to send an email and you want the tone to be, a little bit more casual. You want to be approachable. Whereas let's say you're sending an email to board members, well, you want something that's a much more business oriented and maybe a little bit more diplomatic. So depending on the tone, and we know that as individuals in the PR world, writing has a tone. And we're always in the midst of taking that content and trying to assess and let's say break it down. What is the meaning behind it? So think of text messages now. You text somebody, but if you make a text that's a bit too abrupt, the person might interpret it in a very bad way. So these tools are also ways to help us better communicate and be more efficient in doing it. So now if we go to the next slide, so we changed the content from business to confident, you'll see the changes that it made. So for example, the first on the left-hand side, you'll see the English. It's a rather long sentence, right? It's grammatically, it's a little bit too much, right? 2 sentences. The one on the right-hand side, it's more direct. It's cut up, it's a little bit more to the point, and it has, let's say, a bit more stronger of a vocabulary. So that's what it did in terms of the changes. And like I said, it's a first draft, and then you're refining it. But at a certain point, let's say these AI tools are not writing the right language for the persona that you're dealing with. So that's why there's still a need to have the human at the end of the day be more efficient, but also make sure the message is the right words, the right tone. So now if we go to the next slide, again, DeepL has also continued to evolve. This is an example of a PDF file that was just taken from the School of Continuing Studies, so the Masters of Science and Multilingual Digital Communication. So just took that as a PDF, and then the nice feature is that you can actually take a full document, upload it directly into DeepL, and then say you want to translate it. So again, those ideas of the reports coming in, you want to better understand the terminology in your native language, this is a great tool. So if you go to the next page, what we'll see here is that we took it in. I chose the language. So in this case, we chose German. And essentially in, let's say, 2-3 minutes max, we get to the next page, which is going to show us some different languages and what came out. So if there's any German speakers or Arabic speakers on the call, you can check this out. Let us know, is this translation good? A lot of the time it's a good translation. It's not perfect. And that's why we still, again, need the human to check all these different aspects. But again, at this point, it's much easier to review something that already has a base translation that, again, from a standpoint of budget-wise, you're not outsourcing a full document. You're spending more time editing and reviewing and refining. So these are just examples of some tools that we discussed in the program. Again, there's a lot of AI tools out there, and we don't have time to go through all of them. But thank you, Amal, for confirming it's good Arabic. Again, and this was pulled in about 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. So exciting tools that exist. And again, we're kind of in this mode now of lifelong learning and being present to learn the technologies. So my recap from these tools: imagine AI as an intern, and your objective is to give them the right guidance to bring out quality content. On that note, I'll pass it back to Nicolette. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Christy. So another thing, while we have seen various ways in which to use these tools, we do need to be aware of some of the threats of using AI in the work that we do, and we address these in detail in the program as well, in both PR and marketing and the masters, in terms of ethical AI, things to be aware of, privacy concerns, and so on. And some of these issues are loss of the human touch, complete disinformation. It's so easy to generate news nowadays. We have to be very careful of that. Adding that human touch, the nuance and the creativity we've mentioned, content overload. So there is a real I don't know what to call it. There's a real sort of tendency sometimes to just generate content the whole time. So to keep plugging your platforms to make sure you've got information out all the time. But without a proper strategy, this leads to content overload and people stop looking. So if you're just generating the same content across all of your social media platforms without tailoring each of those to suit the specific platform and its advantages or its special features, your content becomes completely irrelevant. And the same thing applies if you keep flooding the media with news releases and things like that. So it's something to be aware of. Obviously, we're all aware of cybersecurity and privacy concerns. Christy mentioned bias in AI and discrimination in terms of translations and stuff. There is a lot of bias. For example, it sometimes assumes if you are translating into French that everybody's a male. So you need to check for things like that. Displacement of human workers, that is not happening in most jobs nowadays. It is just enhancing our ability to do our jobs better by taking away the menial tasks so that you can really focus your time and energy on strategic and more, strategic and creative focus. Because sometimes if you're looking through oodles of data, it is very easy for your mind to become in that mindset instead of thinking bigger and doing the bigger picture planning and so on. All right, so I'm going to move on now because we do want to actually talk about questions and things as well. Very briefly, our programs, there will be links to all these programs in the chat as well, but I want to mention some of the programs, and obviously we address AI issues in all of these. It's integrated now. AI is happening, and we're going to teach you how to remain valuable by using it. I should mention that the programs don't just focus on AI, though. These are not AI photos programs. These are public relations and marketing and communication programs, but we are teaching you how to use the tools. And for example, instead of trying to get you to stop using AI in assignments, we're integrating them into assignments so that you are physically using AI and then coming up with videos. So we're encouraging it because this is it. So the first program, the Graduate Certificate in Public Relations, these graduate certificates are all entrance requirements or bachelor's degrees. This particular one is fully online. It's a mix between live and online sessions. So some sessions are live, some you work on your own asynchronously. With all the programs, regardless, so I'm just going to say once in terms of the approach, all of them are discussion oriented. There's a lot of practical workshops. There's industry expert guest lecturers, which is a hallmark. It provides very good networking opportunities, even for online programs. We do a lot of case studies, and we do have live clients in marketing and PR. So that is all there. I'm not going to go into much detail. You can check this more out on the links. This is just an overview of the courses in the grad cert one, as we call it, the practice one. It gives you foundational theories, including behavioral science. You come up with an actual communication strategy. You come up with content and so on. So you can look at that online. And as you can see, we do have ethics as well. Very important course. All right. The second one, this one is intended for people, the strategic PR one is intended for people who already have experience in the field of about 2 years and or has done the first one, the practice graduate certificate. So this just takes you deeper into the strategy. We look more at EDI issues. We look at global and intercultural comms. We look at things like mergers and acquisitions. We cover some of these things in the first graduate certificate as well, but it really delves into the actual strategy around it in this particular one, and also a lot more into the actual data and metrics that we use for planning. In terms of marketing, same thing. I should just mention that the marketing programs at both the graduate and undergraduate level are in person, and the public relations undergraduate program, the certificate, is also in person. Same approach, live clients, lively, case-based, a lot of exercises in class. Again, the approach with the first one, GC marketing, is to learn the foundational theories so that you can then design proper strategies that is informed by marketing research and rooted in consumer behavior theories. We obviously have digital courses as well. And while we don't have specific AI-related courses, AI is integrated as far as possible where relevant into these. So this is the second one. This one also has the same approach, more strategic focus. All right, and then finally our master's, our MSc. Our MSc in Multilingual Digital Communication is also an online program, blend of asynchronous and synchronous, so a blend of live and self-work as such. Same approach, and this also includes the final terms of an internship, practicum, or applied research project to get you into the field. So our audience for this particular program are language professionals, communicators, and people with a STEM background, but who are interested in applying the latest technologies to communications. And this one has got different streams. So we have a focus on the tech stream, which is what we will be starting with. And we will also start with the core courses, which includes project management, language technologies, research, and so on. This program launches in the fall. Okay. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Robert now. Those are our email addresses. You can reach out directly to us. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Wow, that's phenomenal. So I'm going to leave some time for those who have questions. You can just put them in the chat, but I wanted to bring your attention to an online information session that we will be holding. It's going to be next week. It's on Thursday. There's going to be 2 sessions, one at 12 and one at 6, and we're going to be able to cover all our SES programs, including the ones that Dr. Papastefanou just mentioned, admission processes, deadlines, documents that you need, all the nitty-gritty stuff that you need to know. So I'm going to put the link there. I invite you to hopefully find one of the 2 slots that fits your schedule and join us then. But for now, I'll kind of keep an eye out on the chat, see if anyone has any questions. I know, what can I think? So we, during the presentation, I was riveted, so I didn't engage as much as I should have in the chat, but I did notice some people did make some comments. So Michael says, when we asked them, do you use any AI? Michael says, and someone after my own heart, we use AI to create macros, analyze metrics, speed up some portions of the translation process. So the translation output still needs strict oversight and revision, but it helps save time. So I think that goes to the point in the beginning that this is a good tool, but not replacing actual humans. Yeah, Ellie as well. We develop a content strategy for an online magazine informed by SEO tools and AI-driven analytics to identify trending topics and optimize article performance. So it seems like people are engaging already.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting. I don't know. This definitely was covered, but Gabriel, just as an FYI, as a professional in visual communications, they appreciate the democratization of image creation, but AI as it is can't distinguish between good and bad messages. And so the prompt creator is not a visual communicator who understands visual language. The results can be questionable. But I think you addressed that in saying that, it's a good start. It's not the end product. You still kind of have to get in there.
That's where the human touch comes in.
Mm.
For now.
For now.
AI will learn soon enough. Oh yeah, I'm also just scrolling through the questions.
Yeah.
Does not always result in making it more legible or better at transmitting a message. That's a very important point, Gabriel. And this is something that we cover extensively in the PR and marketing programs, more so in PR because it's very geared towards, reputation overall. So just because you get something out and you disseminate it as widely as possible, it does not mean that the way the message is received is the way that you intended. And good communication is when the message you sent out is interpreted exactly as you wanted it to be. And that includes the interpretation and use of visuals. So that's an excellent comment. And we do actually address this extensively in the program. That's like the basis of communication. So thanks for that, Gabriel. It's a great comment. Okay. So I'm still looking. Okay, some really good chatting going on in here.
So if I can ask both of you, will what is said today apply to AI in the near future as they develop very fast? So as it's such a quickly evolving thing, do you think this remains where people have to keep their minds at, or do you think it's going to evolve beyond this and have more problems? I think you had mentioned ethical AI and all that. Do you think it's going to?
Christy, do you want to go or should I?
Oh, go ahead, Nicolette.
So the thing with AI is it's learning all the time. I mean, even Christy said, well, not even Christy, but Christy said that her ChatGPT is already learning what she wants. So it's providing her with the content in the format that she wants, and it knows what she's looking for based on previous prompts. So as this continues, all forms of AI will just continue evolving, and our role therein will continue to change. So this is something that I should highlight. Any academic program can only do so much in staying up to date. But so we stay as up to date as possible, but things are changing so quickly and our roles are continuously changing. So the best thing to do would be to stay on the pulse as such, through various tech blogs, through staying up with what's happening, through all the updates, learning sessions, not necessarily from us, but from various technology platforms. But yeah, our role will continue to change. And the real difficulty is coming in that sooner, well, it's already happening to some extent sometimes, is that it's becoming very difficult to distinguish between visuals and things that are real or AI generated. So Christy, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a big, so I mentioned I work a lot with cybersecurity, and what's happening with all these AI tools is that it needs, I think, from a voice standpoint, less than a minute of voice to be able to make a deep fake. And then in terms of video content, it's a few minutes. Like I say, I think that I've said things between 2 to 5 minutes that it can really make something that you can change the voice on. So there's a lot of ethical issues, and I think in most of our courses, right, Nicolette, there's a big portion about ethics, and I see a comment too about bias. I remember just going into ChatGPT looking for, or Midjourney looking for a visual, and it was a picture of a conference room, and I said, give me a visual of conference room of individuals, and it was 5 white males in it. And then I said, well, add some diversity, and then they added in 2 white women. And then I said, well, add some more ethnicity. And then they changed it out. But there is an inherent bias. And I think also being mindful of that and understanding, well, how do we react to that? and making sure that that's kind of top of mind. Our role as communicators is to make sure that we are being open-minded, that we're respecting diversity, we're bringing in those ethical points. So I think that's a really big part of the curriculum, and it's evolving so quickly as well.
Thanks. In academic programs, will we only learn, oops, my question has vanished, when we learn American AI tools? So because we are based in North America, I mean, we will be using the tools that we use most here, because this is where we're based. So I don't know, what do you mean specifically by American AI tools? Laura? Oh, new messages. Okay. Yeah, so basically what we would cover is the ones that we use most regularly here. American-made data privacy. Oh, well, yes. I mean, McGill has got certain rules. Okay. McGill has certain rules on what we're allowed to use or what we are not allowed to use on our computers, and as employees and things like that. So obviously we have to stay within that. For data privacy concerns, mostly. I think somebody had mentioned that. I think somebody had mentioned that McGill has banned DeepL.
DeepSeek.
Oh, DeepSeek. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we're allowed to use DeepL. Yeah, DeepSeek. Mm. All right. Sorry, Robert, you were saying?
No, sorry. Question from Ellie. I have a question about AI learning when using it for prompts. So it was said today that it's best to engage with AI tools as if they were interns. However, they found that feeding the AI information about their writing style preferences and the sources they use and or what they rely on as crucial to optimize the output. I guess the question is, how much can AI actually learn without making mistakes? They sometimes feel like it forgets their preferences, even though it has access to all this data.
Yeah. Well, in just if I go and tell you a little bit like a chat GPT as examples, there is let's say the paid version, you can create your own GPTs where you have your preference. You can change the preference for tone, voice, and you can have a working station among other colleagues that are all in the team-based chat GPT. So there's a way to change that. That's really related to the settings. And these are not things that, unless you really know how to change the settings and want to apply, most of us even know how to use. Same things with like machine learning preferences. You want to make sure that you're changing your settings so that your data is not going into the large learning models as well. I think to comment on the intern side, I think there is a 100% the tone aspect of it when you make your own personas using these specific GPTs and the learning module. But in terms of like high level data, it is excellent at taking very sophisticated data sets and interpreting the data and giving that set. So on that side, it is much more than an intern. I think the way that best to use it or look at it is that it does have, like, it's again more of a simple way when you're starting to learn ChatGPT. The more you use it, the better you get, right? The more you refine the prompts. It's a big learn. The first time I used ChatGPT, I was not very impressed with it. I was like, oh, okay, whatever, generate some content. Now it's taking my pictures from trips and making these really cool graphics, and it's taking 10 reports and giving me an executive summary of 2 pages to pull out the key ideas. But that was from spending more time learning it and also going to different sessions. And it is learning, and part of what we're doing in the courses, we're trying to expedite your learning by being hands-on. And I think that often is the thing that's even more valuable, because we're teaching you to critically think but using the AI tools. And all of the assignments, for example, in the course that I'm doing right now, the expectation is you're most likely using these tools, but here is how we add that aspect of critically thinking and the strategic aspect that we're looking for in the business world right now. So I hope that answers your question, at least from my side. Nicolette, maybe you want to add in?
No, not right now because we are almost at our time. But yes, the tools are continuously learning and our job is to learn alongside them. I just want to get back to Laura because the info you put in ChatGPT is also used for profiling. Yes, so thanks for giving that up. We know that. We use ChatGPT in our presentation because that's what many people are familiar with, and it is kind of a very common one. But I should add that McGill actually recommends, and we're actually meant to be using Copilot. I use both. And they do come up with different things. So, for example, Copilot is actually better at translation sometimes than ChatGPT and so on, depending on what language you're translating into. And when we did generate the prompt for this in the beginning, well, AI take my job in PR and marketing, Copilot and ChatGPT came up with different responses. Both of them said, no, it won't. That was the essence, but the responses were slightly different. So it's interesting. But yes, Laura, so we're actually meant to be using Copilot. It's integrated into our systems and is much more secure. So thanks for that point. It's a good one.
So just before we go, I'm just going to remind everyone, I left it in the chat. Join us for our information session next week about these programs. There's a lot more to learn than we saw this hour. I just want to interject before we close.